Presenting the heroes of Vogler and defenders of Palamon. Boreas Primus, elder brother to Asterius Primus, began as a fledgling swashbuckler in the Blood Sea of Krynn. While sailing on the vessel Gorgon with Asterius, they engaged a ship bearing the flags of the Red Dragon Army. While boarding the ship, mysterious spellcasters in black robes appeared on deck, called himself Bogadon the World Ender, and released a massive fireball at the Gorgon. Asterius pushed Boreas overboard to safety, but remained on deck when the spell went off. Searching the wreckage, Boreas never found out what happened to his brother and assumed he did not survive. After washing ashore, Boreas made it his life's mission to hunt Bogadon and seek his revenge. In his search, he was pulled into an unusual group whose lives became intertwined with the Red Dragon Army as well. Learning that Bogadon was connected to the invasion of Vogler and the attack on Palamon, Boreas joined forces in an effort to find his nemesis and destroy him before returning to his homeland on the Isle of Mythos. Flowers, the tabaxi, started life as an abandoned infant, raised by the wildlife surrounding him in the forest. Learning from nature itself, Flowers learned the druidic arts, separated from the rest of the world. During his youth, he came into contact with a lost adventurer named Ispin Greenshield, who told stories of the world, society, and his adventuring days. The stories made Flower curious about the outside world, but that conflicted with his apprehension of the world Ispin described. Despite his reclusiveness, Flowers was notified of the passing of Ispin and decided to leave his home to pay his respects. Ispin had finally gave him a reason to venture out of his forest and see what the world he'd always been curious about. After meeting Ispin's other friends who paid their respect, Flowers quickly found himself swept up into the fight against the Red Dragon Army and chose to stay with him and see it through. It's what Ispin would have done. Mitch the Paladin was raised as a Knight of Solamnia, dedicating his service to the Elvish land and the people he loved. He formed a pact of the blade with what he believed to be a divine power inside of a magical sword he found. This allowed him to develop warlock powers to complement his paladin abilities, never suspecting that the power within the blade may have its own designs. After fleeing the land of Sylvanesti, as it was invaded by the dragon armies, he traveled westward in search of purpose, offering whatever help he could. With memories of war still fresh in his mind, he decided to avoid Solamnia. Soon after the invasion of Vogler, Mitch found himself in the city of Palamon, where he was called to aid after the assassination of the governor and the council. Eventually, Mitch, now known as Montecore by his friends, joined up with the adventuring party hired to protect Palamon, standing with them as heroes against the Red Dragon Army. Meg Lilthor Silverstar, Lil as she's known to family and friends, hails from one of the great noble houses of Sylvanesti. The youngest of 4 children, she spent most of her life dancing the night away as a socialite with little responsibility. The coming of the dragon armies and destruction of Sylvanesti changed all of that. Separated from her family, not knowing if they were even alive, Lil became self-reliant for the first time in her life. Armed with a thirst for vengeance and an untrained talent for magic, it was a chance encounter at a tavern that showed her the path forward. After becoming an initiate of the mages of high sorcery, Lil became tangled in events that led her directly engaging with members of the Red Dragon Army. From Vogler to Palamon to the Northern Wastes, her opponents became fiercer, but so did she, using the ancient art of blade singing. Upon entering the City of Lost Names, she faced and passed her test of high sorcery and joined the Order of the Red Robes. Having returned to Palamon, connected to a restored Dragonlance, she now seeks to destroy the floating citadel and the evil within. As long as she draws breath, she will not allow the great city to fall as Sylvanesti did. Dara Heelfoot may seem like a typical Kender to everybody at first meeting, but one thing that sets her apart from her kin is her unwavering faith that the gods still watched over the world, especially Mishakal. At the funeral for Ispin Greenshield, she eagerly embarked on an adventure with new friends. Mishakal had bestowed upon her a holy symbol, and the magic with which she could help her comrades, which she was eager to do. Having gained the shield from Mispin, she set off with an eclectic band of adventurers to fight the growing darkness in the north. On her adventure, she escaped death with the help of Boreas, while fleeing with the stolen dragon egg. Now, Vera and her companions are infiltrating the floating citadel of the dragon army to put a stop to it before it reaches Kalamon.